Now let's turn to the hypothetical scenarios of cyber terrorism. This is still a survey, a result of a survey conducted by Lee Jervis, and we're looking at 6 different scenarios that may or may not be categorized as cyber terrorism. And due to the nature of the survey, uh, we are looking at uh, possibilities that some scenarios are more strongly categorized as cyber terrorism than others. Now, let's take a look at the strongest majority in the survey, and that's scenarios number 1, number 3, and number 4. Now, here, number 1, we look at the scenario where a terrorist group interferes with an air traffic control system, causing 2 passenger aircraft to collide in midair. So what we're looking at here is how a terrorist organization utilizes a digital technology, perhaps some kind of a malware, and it targets another digital network, an air traffic control system, and due to the disruption caused by this malware, 2 passenger aircraft collide in midair. There is an almost unanimous agreement that this scenario constitute cyber terrorism. The respondents here emphasize that in this scenario, the perpetrators had caused a serious physical harm via digital means. Although there is an almost unanimous agreement that scenario 1 is a cyber terrorism, there's still a disagreement or confusion about how terrorist organization interferes with an air traffic control system, because there's also a possibility that interfering with air traffic control system may not require digital means. They could blow it up. They could use incendiary devices or improvised explosive devices that disrupt with their traffic control system. And then there's also thought among the respondents that the terrorist organizations would also need to publicly communicate that they had done the acts that are perpetrated here. And then in scenario 3, we'll look at, that's another unanimous agreement, almost unanimous agreement, that is cyber terrorism. A terrorist organization remotely access the processing control system of a serial manufacturer. It can also be a water purifying system, and changes the level of iron supplement, and as a result, large numbers of children fall ill, some die. This is also a strong possible scenario of cyber terrorism. Again, as with previous explanation that I've provided before this, we also need to take a look into the motivation of the attack. It should be political, and it is also easier to categorize any one of these acts as acts of terrorism or acts of cyber terrorism even, if they are publicly announced by or claimed by the terrorist organization. Claiming and announcing is also a complexity of its own, because in a single attack there can be more than one organizations that claim it as their accomplishment. And then we look at scenario 4 is another majority of votes that agree that it is a cyber terrorism. It is where a terrorist group hacks into the computer system of a nation's stock exchange, sending the national economy into chaos and causing significant economic damage. So this is a particularly interesting hypothetical scenario because uh, there are no bodily injury or deaths resulted in this attack, but it produced a huge economic cost and even chaos in the society. It could also result in succession of leadership at the highest political leadership of the country. And so we could say that scenario 4, although does not produce um, violence or bodily injury or deaths, it produced a significant political impact. Now, there are uh, minor scenarios here that most respondents disagree that that it constitutes cyber terrorism. Number two is tensions between two communities that boil over, resulting in violent rioting. Several people got killed, and a terrorist group seeks to further inflame the situation, posing as members of one of the communities. They post gruesome images and videos on social media and issue threats against members of the other community. We can see that digital technology is utilized here to its furthest extent, I suppose, in a propagandistic way, uh, where terrorist organizations use the social media and other platforms. I suppose the social media is at the moment highly controlled already, and so they could be using other kinds of platforms where there's more freedom and there's less content moderation operation in the platforms, and as a result of disinformation and in these using these platforms, uh, and also we can see here that the terrorist organizations also use AI to create fake videos, and so they can pose as members of one of the communities, posting gruesome images, provoking hatred, provoking chaos in the society, um, um, and one group of the society is feel threatened by another. We could say that this is probably, although it doesn't constitute, although most respondents feel that it doesn't constitute cyber terrorism because there's no targeting of a digital network and it doesn't directly implicate on bodily injury and deaths. It does produce catastrophic result. And I think that depending on where this poll is taken, there are others that would say that this scenario number two, is actually constitute cyber terrorism. And then we look at scenario number 5. A terrorist group plants a bomb in the computer control room of the nation's stock exchange. No one's killed, the computers are destroyed, sending the national economy into chaos, causing significant economic damage. And so we can see here that there is no digital technology that is utilized by the terrorist at all. And so we could say that this is not even a cyber use of by the terrorists, because it be could be the case that the planting of bomb in a computer control room is planned in cyberspace. Now we're probably thinking that way. We're thinking that cyberspace is used to execute coordinate planning for a conventional terrorist attack using bombs or improvised explosive devices. And indeed, this is when we say it like that, it means that we tend to agree on an expanded, unrestricted understanding of cyberterrorism. Uh, and so it requires one that adopts this kind of definition to also have an expansive or unrestricted control in cyberspace. Usually, states that have this kind of understanding of unrestricted understanding of cyberterrorism, they would devise laws that uh, designate particular individuals or even designate particular ideologies in cyberspace to be prevented from utilizing it for purposes of conducting attacks. And the last one is where a terrorist group plans to hijack a plane and crash it into a busy urban area. They buy their flight tickets online. Again, this is very expanded definition of cyber terrorism, and the consequence of adopting an expanded definition of cyber terrorism is that responding to it would also require an unrestricted control over the cyberspace. That would also erode democracy and freedom of expression in cyberspace.